This week on That Just Happened, we have the penguin from The Whale. Yeah, I think you can get this one, nerds. I believe in you. So, reviews for lazy people, or, you know, people with day jobs, I guess is probably more appropriate. Adults who can't always do the thing. Yeah, this was a busy week. We have 2 concerts to talk about. We have, according to my timer, approximately 30 minutes to get through it. So we gotta do this quick. Probably very minimal amount of editing in this episode, so be warned. Also, if you are watching any of the TV shows we're about to talk about, or you haven't seen the movies that we're about to talk about, then spoiler warning, but you knew that already. You're an intelligent person. Let's get into the things. We're going to talk about the music first. I went to Everclear and Marcy Playground. That was the first concert. Just was everything I was hoping for, as far as the performance of the bands anyway. Jimmy's Chicken Shack opened up, Marcy Playground, then Everclear. And Marcy Playground and Everclear are both bands on my bucket list, so I can check those off. I have finally seen them live. Super stoked for both of them. I think Marcy Playground's self-titled record, the first record they put out, is one of the most perfect pieces of pop rock ever produced. So seeing them live and performing a lot of the hits off that record was fan-freaking-tastic. I really wish I could have caught John after the show to shake his hand and ask him what it was like to write a perfect album. But I did, however, get to meet Art Alexakis after the show, because Everclear are just cool freaking dudes, and they stuck around to sign everything. And anyone who wanted a signature on something or just wanted to meet them and shake their hand had the opportunity to do that, because they stuck around and did that for everyone who stuck around to do that. So a lot of wordplay. Yeah, meeting Art Alexakis was a little bit of a therapeutic moment for me. The first 2 Everclear records really were instrumental in my childhood, and I tried to not break down and cry. I was unsuccessful though. It was wonderful being able to shake. I have now met, there are 3 lyricists who have helped me through very difficult times in my life, and Art Alexakis was the 3rd of those 3 for me to meet. The other 2, Howard Jones from Killswitch Engage, now in Light the Torch, and Alex Varkatsis, formerly of Atreyu, now in Icarus, or Dead Icarus rather. I've been able to shake both of those men's hands and say thank you for writing the music you write. And now I've got to do the same thing with Art, so that kind of bucket list thing can be closed. I'm super, super stoked to have done it. And ridiculously impressed with Art Alexakis' ability to perform 8 years into an MS. Let me take that back. 8 years into an MS diagnosis. The fact that he is still performing at the level he is. There are definitely points where he had to step away from the microphone because it looked like he was having issue singing, which again, with MS. But I mean, by and large, it was super, super impressive. I had so much fun at that show. The one issue I had with the entire show had nothing to do with the bands on stage, had everything to do with the crowd I was standing in, because this is, I mean, for all intents and purposes, this is alternative rock at the very least, but like, Everclear is definitely upbeat, like alt punk from the 90s. Like, there is definitely that punk element to their sound. Jimmy's Chicken Shack is alt rock with kind of a little bit of an edge to it. Marcy Playground, I can kind of understand not moshing to a Marcy Playground set. Like, that kind of makes sense. They're not the most aggressive band from the 90s, but Everclear's pretty aggressive when it comes to stuff that got played on the radio, and like, that was kind of the proto bubblegum punk in a lot of ways, the proto pop punk in a lot of ways. I mean, there was Blink-182 started at a similar time, so you can't really they were bridging the gap between grunge and pop punk. And you mosh at a grunge show, you mosh at a pop punk show, but you don't mosh at an Everclear? Like, that was just bizarre. Just absolutely bonkers. I was not the oldest person there. Matter of fact, I was on the younger side of the people there. So that's very likely the reason, because all of these Gen Xers who were in their teens when the first Everclear record came out just don't have it in them, I guess. I don't know, but I'm throwing down the gauntlet to you Gen X folk who listen to this. At the next Everclear show, because I will see them at least one more time before Art no longer has it in him to perform, but at the next Everclear show, I'm starting a pit. It's happening, goddammit. But the other show that we had this week was Lord of the Lost. Lord of the Lost, the opener was... oh, good lord. Somebody I didn't really like. Bisto Blanco, that's who it was. Bisto Blanco. They were meh. There was really nothing to write home about. I mean, they put on a show, sure, it was fine, but like the female vocalist like has these really staged things that she does during each song. It's very much a performance piece for her. So like you can see when she got thrown off of the pre-planned actions that she was doing, like it really showed, and it wasn't just a natural thing that she was doing to perform the music. She really had to like be on performing, like it was just weird, awkward, whatever. They weren't why I was going though, so Bisto Blanco, whatever. That's, if you like the music, I'm sure you dig the show too. But Lord of the Lost, modern goth, just amazing, like goth industrial metal. Again, no mosh pits in this crowd. What the hell is going on? Like, sure, Lord of the Lost is not like the most crazy heavy stuff, but they have some really rockin' tunes. They didn't play on this Rock I Will Build My Church, but they did play Lorelei, and holy shit, why did nobody move during the Lorelei song? I don't know. It got to the point where even, Chris Harms, the vocalist, was trying to get people to do, he came up with a thing he said he's trying to patent. It was hilarious. He's great. He's a fantastic frontman. Definitely, if there had been 6 people in that audience, you would have gotten the exact same show out of that man. But it did not feel pre-planned. Everything he did was not like choreography. It was his genuine interpretation of the music that they were performing. But he had everyone do a one-person circle pit. So basically, he had the entire audience jump, jump, but jump in circles. And it was great. And everybody did it, but nobody moshed. Either way, it is an amazing thing when a band that very obviously goes through a very long production stage on their music, when they put out an album, the production stage of that, the post-production, I guess I should say, is almost as long, if not longer, than the actual performance stage of the recording of the music. When they can reproduce that live without backing tracks, because I mean, I've got pretty good ears, man. I've been doing sound for 20 years almost. So the fact that I cannot, if they were using backing tracks, they were doing it better than anyone I've ever seen. And I've seen some very very rich bands, very well-to-do bands using backing tracks. So if those guys can do it and it's obvious to me, and these guys who are working on a very shoestring budget can do it and it's not obvious to me, then they're doing something I've never seen before, which is unlikely. Long way of saying they're not performing to tracks. They are performing the music and it sounds like the record. In some respects, that's not a great thing in my book, because the live performance, the musicking of it, if you will, to quote Adam Neely, the musicking of a song there should be some variants, and there were some variants, but it is an industrial, it's industrial music at its base, and industrial doesn't leave a lot of room for interpretation. It's very rigid and very Prussian, very Einzwei. So like, within that rigid structure, they did plenty of interpretation as far as the form would allow. But the sounds that they were emanating, whether or not they were exactly like they were on the record, you couldn't tell. They were doing that damn good. And it was, oh my God, it was so much fun. Oh my God, it was so much fun. It was not a sold out show, sadly, but it was also the middle of the week for a band that does not have a gigantic audience in the States. So it was about as full as I had anticipated. I was hoping they had sold it out, but they did not. Just incredible amount of fun though. Like, those guys have so much fun on stage. It is infectious, and the crowd then feels it and feeds it back in. Even if the crowd wasn't moshing, which is, again, such a weird thing when you're at a performance of aggressive music and nobody's moving. They're jumping, they're shaking their fists, they're doing the devil horns, all the things, just without the mosh pit. It just seemed weird. Anyway, that was the music. Let's talk about the other things that we interacted with this week. First up is the movie on Netflix. Netflix? No, it was on Max, rather. I saw the TV Glow. Maybe it was on Netflix. A24. Yeah, I think it was on Netflix. Either way, this is A24 really doing artsy A24 things. Oh, dude. If you like very offbeat, very slow, all atmosphere style horror, then this will be right up your alley. If you like the super artsy side of filmmaking and you like that in your horror to be very long and dragging, and then yeah, you're gonna love this. If you like A24 stuff, just you already know what you're getting into, then you're going to love this as well. If you're looking for something that is more traditional in the genre of horror, this is not the movie for you at all. If you have watched, and again, spoilers because we're talking about it, but if you've watched the first season of Channel Zero, you have a strong understanding of what's going to happen in this show. It's not the same. The twist is fairly different, but by and large, there's very strong parallels to the first season of Channel Zero. I kind of dig this twist a little bit more. I think that was the strongest season of Channel Zero, was season 1. But this twist at the end, I feel like was a little bit more, and the acting, I think, is really what set this apart, because the kid who plays the lead as an adult, because you go through a couple of generations of this kid, as an adult, that actor really is incredibly effective. So if you're watching this for like a really good acting piece, young actor really showing his chops, this is going to do a lot for you in that respect as well. But again, if you're looking for a more traditional horror movie, look somewhere else, because I Saw the TV Glow is not traditional in any respect. It is a moderate recommend. I was going to say mild, but no, it's a moderate recommend. There's definitely a lot to be gleaned here. They did a lot of it very, very well. And it leaves you with questions. I think some of the best movies ask a question and then give you possible answers without giving you the answer. And I think that leaves a lot of room for interpretation, leaves a lot of room for discussion about what the meanings are and so on and so forth. So yeah, 100%. Don't think they could have ended it better, because, oh man, the last 5 minutes of this movie will tear your heart from your chest, if you have one, that is. So yeah, that's what we got for that one. Let's talk. The other big movie that I saw this week was The Whale. I fully understand why Brennden Fraiser was given awards for this role, because holy cow. He is, though, the best thing about this. The girl who plays his friend, she was also in the most recent Knives Out movie, and I'm pretty sure she was in Downsizing with Matt Damon as well. She's good. I take that back. She's also great, but you don't see her greatness in the entirety of her role. You see it there in the last act of the movie, but you don't see it in the first 2 acts so much. She does leave you a lot of, you start to really get into the psychology of why she's there. So that's really cool that she made those choices that really kind of get you drawn into who she is as a character. I really feel like everyone is standing, and this is totally not meant to be literal, but everyone is standing in Brennden Fraser's shadow in this movie. Every one of those performances pales in comparison to what he has done. The redhead girl from Stranger Things is in this as well. She plays Brennden Fraser's daughter. She is insufferable. I feel like that's kind of the point with the character, but there's no arc to her character. She's just terrible, 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 terrible. Oh my God, she cares at the end, and you don't see the change, just all of a sudden she's different. And so that's a little bit jarring, but goddamn, Brennden Fraser. If you have not watched The Whale, know that it is one of the more depressing movies you're ever going to watch. It is one of the more difficult movies you're ever going to watch. It's just hard to watch somebody in that situation going through the things that Brennden Fraser's character is going through. But oh my God, you should watch it nonetheless. It is affecting. So, and proof that, you know, I've not said it forever, but I've said it a few times recently before watching The Whale, that Brennden Fraiser is kind of an untapped talent when it comes to roles like this. And there's a reason why after this movie came out, he started getting a lot more dramatic roles. I know there's a lot to his story as an actor, and he was definitely taken advantage of in his younger years, but he's got a lot more amazing career ahead of him, and this movie is proof of that. So 100% recommend. And then we have two more things to get to, and that the first one is The Penguin. Watched episode 1 of The Penguin. This is another example of just incredible acting ability. Collin Ferrell as the Penguin is unrecognizable, even knowing that Collin Ferrell is inside that suit and you can't see the suit anywhere. So if they don't get any other awards for this, if Collin Ferrell doesn't get an acting award for this, I wholeheartedly do not believe in any of the awards committees or whatever the hell, whoever decides people get awards for these things. But if they don't get that, then bar none, they should get the special effects and makeup award at the Oscars or the Emmys or whatever, because that suit is incredible. Literally, it's a question of which one is better. The ability for them to hide Collin physically inside the suit, or Collin's ability to hide himself inside the character, because both of them are at a level that you have never seen before. Never seen. Even Brennden Fraiser in The Whale, you see Brennden Fraiser in that character. Collin Ferrell inside of The Penguin does not exist. Does not exist. Like, you watch the post credits where they get the behind the scenes stuff and you see Collin Ferrell talking about the psychology of the character that he's playing and blah, blah, blah. It's like he's talking about a completely different person. He's not talking about himself. He's talking about Oz Cobb. He is talking about this completely other entity separate from himself. It is incredible. Now, as far as the rest of the show goes, yeah, it's good. But Collin Ferrell's performance is the reason to watch this. It's one of the better mafia shows, and this is just episode 1. I haven't watched episode 2 yet, but Collin Ferrell's, the show rather, as a whole, one of the better mafia shows that you're going to see probably on television ever. I would put this easily at the same level as The Sopranos. And again, just from the first episode, then they could lose my faith in episode 3, who knows? But nothing is ever going to stop me from praising Collin Ferrell's performance inside that suit as Oz Cobb. Like, that is if you don't watch it for any other reason, if you don't have to like superhero stuff because it's barely a superhero thing. You don't have to like mafia stuff because, I mean, it is very much that, but it is just a masterclass in acting. So yeah, The Penguin, episode 1, absolutely recommend. We'll talk about more as we go. And then from season 3, episode 1 is the next piece, the last piece we're going to talk about for this episode of That Just Happened. And so this is the final season for the series. So episode 1 of the final season, you would think would start to show some of the direction they're going to end up for the conclusion of this. I could be wrong. I could be misremembering this, but I'm pretty sure season 3 is the final season. So when episode 1 gets to the end and you go, wait, it's been an hour? How? It feels like it's been 5 minutes. How do I have more questions at the end of the first episode than we're supposed to be gearing up to tie up everything at the end and, nice little bow and no more loose ends, and that's not how they're playing it. It's perfect that it's coming out now too, because Halloween time this is going to be a series that we watch every year, just like we watch Haunting of Bly Manor and Haunting of Hill House every freaking year. This is going to be another series that we watch every year for Halloween because it is simply that damn good. There you have the settlement or the town or whatever you want to call it, the people who are stuck here, they at the end of the last season were left without crops. The crops were starting to die because they had a storm, and the storm killed a lot of their crops. So they were hoping that some of the crops survive. You find out at the very beginning of this episode, none of the crops survive. They're starting to mold. So whatever creature, entity, or whatever is controlling this little town has decided that they don't get crops anymore. And all they have now are farm animals because they can't regrow crops in time to feed everyone. Like you're rushing up against the clock here. together. And then you get and then the eaters, I think, is what the fan base is calling the demons, the creatures that come out at night. The eaters are starting to be like extra nefarious. They're doing things that you didn't think they were capable of doing in the first 2 seasons, like opening the barn and letting the cows loose, because they can't enter into the buildings because they have these talismans. So you would think they would have put a talisman on the barn to keep the barn animals safe from the demons, but no, that's not a thing. And I don't know, I don't know what kind of detail I can get into, just because I'm literally still trying to I watched the first episode of season 3 3-4 days ago, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything that happened in it. But to say this show is really starting to tone things down because we're heading to the end is not accurate. This is just getting more and more bonkers. I can't wait for more, so that's where we got to end this one. Thank you very much, nerds, for joining me this episode. Happening soon, coming up soon. There are no concerts in the immediate future, so we don't have music that we're going to be talking about. But we do have Daryl Dixon season 2 just started. I have yet to watch episode 1, but we will have that by next week. Also, because again, Halloween season, so we're going to have at least one more old movie coming out we're going to talk about. But Uzumaki just released onto HBO Max, so we will be watching the anime version of Uzumaki. I'm definitely here for it because Junji Ito is Japanese horror god, right? So that is what's happening soon for me. What is happening soon for you, nerds? Let's talk about that down in the comment section. Or if you interacted with some of the things that we talked about in this show, let's have that conversation. If there's something else that it was on your list of things that you did, I want to hear about it, man. So let's do this. Let's go back and forth. Let's talk about what just happened, because for me, that just happened. Thank you very much, nerds, for joining me for this episode of That Just Happened. We will see you in the next one. Before we go, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here, and that just happened.